Hi, I'm Dory Demers, and I'm the Rise Vermont coordinator. Rise Vermont is a community initiative to embrace healthier lifestyles, improve the quality of life, and reduce healthcare costs of where we live, work, and play. We are pleased to bring you Rise TV, a weekly syndicated show on Northwest Access Television, bringing us all tips, tricks, and resources to embrace a healthier lifestyle. We are thrilled that we are partnering with the Vermont Department of Health St. Albans District Office to offer these tapings as WIC-approved activities. Please be sure to listen for your WIC-approved phrase that'll appear at the bottom of your screen here and also be told by the co-host. This will be what you will have to report back to your local district office to get credit for your second nutrition education. If you'd like more information about Rise Vermont, head to www.risevermont.com or follow us on social media. I really hope you enjoy the show, and thank you for joining us in embracing a healthier lifestyle and creating a healthier community for all of us and generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to Rise Vermont TV. My name is Brian Clukey, and I'm the Rise Vermont Health Coach. Today we'll be talking a little bit about post-hiking, different things to look out for, what a post-hike looks like. And today with me I have two special guests. First one.
Hi, I'm Stacy Carpenter. I'm a public health nurse with the health department, and I work here in the St. Albans area.
And our second guest today.
Chad Spooner. I work at the Vermont Department of Health doing emergency preparedness for Franklin and Grand Isle counties.
Excellent, excellent. So talking a little bit about post-hike, you know, there's many different things we can touch on. First, we'd like to check, you know, whether you've put repellent on or not, which we talked about in one of our previous episodes. We're talking with Stacy a little bit about checking for ticks, different seasons to look out for ticks, and as well as their lifespan. So if you could touch on a few, maybe just the checking for ticks first.
Sure. So when talking about ticks, they tend to have a 2-year life cycle.
Okay.
And so when we talk a little bit more about their life cycle, you'll see where the active months are. So when looking at hiking, to be just more aware during certain months of the year. So with ticks, they typically lay their eggs in the spring.
Okay.
And they will hatch and have their first, what they call blood meal. So they'll feed on kind of the smaller animals.
Doesn't sound good.
No. Smaller animals, moles, shrews, you know, mice, chipmunks, things like that. And that's kind of their first exposure to maybe picking up some of the bacteria that can cause things like Lyme disease.
Oh, okay.
So that tends to be in the summer. And then they kind of go dormant until the next spring.
Oh, okay.
So as the months warm up a little bit, when we're looking at those early days of spring that get pretty toasty, that's when they'll come out again for their next meal. And this is the first time that they can actually transmit some of the bacteria that they may have come in contact with the previous year to humans.
Oh, so it is kind of that,
exactly.
Literally a 2-year cycle per
Yep,
tick.
so it's that next year where they come in contact kind of with their first human host, as well as other animals. So kind of that early springtime, they tend to feed through the summer months, right into the fall. And the end of the fall months is typically when only female ticks will feed because they're getting ready to lay their eggs the next spring. So we tend to see a lot of activity kind of that early springtime through the summer, through the fall, and definitely into the months where you get the warm days in October even. We don't tend to think about it, but definitely when those warm days come along, just to be aware that they could be out kind of for their last feed before laying their eggs.
Yeah. So with ticks, is it completely temperature-based to a degree? Is it just seasonal?
It can be. They do go dormant during the winter months, and that's when we tend not to see as much activity. They do kind of freeze, just like a fly would. And then as the temps warm up, they tend to be a little more active. They they kind of perch on grasses. So if you've ever seen a tick up close, they're pretty tiny, so you won't actually see it in the wild. But when you see pictures of them, they literally hang on to the blades of grass with their bottom legs, and they reach out with their top legs. It's called questing. And so when you walk by, they are perceptive to thermal changes, so they can feel your body heat.
And that's what they're kind of attracted to.
Exactly, or different pressure changes. And so as they're reaching out, they can grab on, is how they is how they.
So it's almost for them not even a direct move. It's just like, hey, you're here.
Exactly, and you just kind of brush up against them. They actually don't jump.
Oh.
But once attached, they can then crawl to different parts of your body. So when you're talking about inspection, you want to check everybody. So anybody who's on your hike, including your animals.
Including your animals.
Exactly. Yeah. So places to check are typically, I like to call them the dark areas.
The dark areas.
So behind the earlobes, they tend to hang out there. They tend to love armpits. They tend to love inner groin, as well as between toes and fingers, and definitely on the scalp. A lot of people don't think to check their head because if you're walking on a trail, you're not really burrowing into the trail.
Brush against grass.
Exactly. But they tend to attach. They'll crawl up, and they like the hair area. So just making sure you check those areas. On animals, the muzzles. So dogs who are sniffing on trails, they tend to get ticks mostly in their face area, along their muzzles, and then in the ears. But ticks can attach anywhere, so just make sure you're checking everything.
Kind of a thorough, full body.
Exactly, and if you need help, having someone else check, areas that you can't check. Exactly.
I mean, if you did find one on you after a hike, what would you do? Because I know they can bite or engorge themselves, or how is it?
Exactly. So the first thing you can do to remove them indirectly is actually showering right after a hike.
Okay.
So if they're just on the skin and they haven't embedded into the skin, you can actually just flush it off with water.
Okay.
And that goes with animals too. You could just spray them down with a hose. It actually works on my dog. We can actually see it on his fur, and we just spray him down, and it'll come off that way. If it is embedded, what ticks will do is they actually kind of hold onto the skin, and they embed their head, and they actually have a feeding tube that goes under the skin. It actually uses an anesthetic, so you don't feel it when that happens. It's kind of ingenious in a way. Yeah, exactly. But then they kind of bury their head, so they're firmly attached while they're eating.
Yeah.
So if you do find a tick, don't panic. I always tell people, try not to panic. When you do see it, it's shocking. What you're going to use is actually just some tweezers. And you're literally going to get down close to the head where it's embedded into the skin. And you're going to have firm pressure and just slowly start to bring it up. It may take a little while to get that tick to kind of remove itself.
Yeah.
Do not twist or yank. That ends up leaving parts of the tick under the skin, and it acts like a splinter. So the body reacts in the same way. You can get infection of the skin.
Just by that right there, yeah.
Exactly. So if you do remove the tick completely, you can tell because their legs will continue to move if the head is intact. Go ahead, throw it in the toilet, or put it in a sealed bag so it's not running around the house. And just remember it was in that bag.
Because even if you were to fold it up in like a Kleenex and throw it in the trash, they could still crawl their way out.
And we try to recommend not squeezing them or squishing them. Not a good idea. So just get rid of it. Clean the area with some soap and water, and just continue to monitor it.
Perfect.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Stacy. That sounds like some great ways to prevent ticks, or if they're on you, to get rid of them. Chad, we're talking about post-hike here today, and do you have any recommendations after a hike? We talked a lot about sweating. You sweat, you lose water, and what else?
Yep, you'll lose electrolytes also, so you'll obviously want to rehydrate yourself, even though you think you've drinking enough while you're on the trail. Keep drinking some more, and then really, just fruits and vegetables. A banana is really good after a hike, and just the kind of the rainbow. Pick some colors from the rainbow.
Different colors.
Yep, and just like you would pick for dinner or lunch or whatever, and just have a little snack before your meal. But you burn a lot of calories, so as good as that is, you do want to replenish some of that.
Yeah. Another kind of interesting point is usually when hiking, if I understand correctly, like you can be dehydrated without knowing it. So to not only bring more water than you need, but to kind of continually.
Yep. Just continue for a couple hours after. The way you really can tell is by the color of your urine. So if your urine's really dark, you're really dehydrated. So it should be a very, very light yellow.
A light yellow.
Yep. So that's a way to tell.
Excellent. Do you have any other recommendations as far as after hiking? We talked about tick inspection. We talked about in one of our other episodes about applying sunscreen. Would you need to wash anything like that off? And this is kind of questions to both of you. Does that thoroughly, wherever you sprayed it, do you want to wash it off as well?
Absolutely, and that, I think will also, I don't know if that'll help with the ticks also, but definitely putting, if you can wash your stuff, it would definitely help.
Yeah, it definitely helps if you are able to wash clothing in very hot water. High
water.
heat will kill most things. So if it is washable and you can dry it, do it at the highest setting.
So it might almost be a good idea to not only check yourself, but after your hike to almost, if you can, throw your clothes in a hot,
Exactly.
hot wash.
Yeah, probably throwing them in the laundry basket in the bathroom for a few days will not be good for the smell or the ticks wandering around the house. No.
It is important to know as well with the repellents and the sunscreen, they do contain chemicals. And so you do want to wash it off the skin. It can actually cause a dermatitis or an inflammation of your skin, so you can almost end up with a rash.
Oh,
so
really?
if you don't wash those areas that came in contact with the repellent or sunscreen, they will get itchy and rashy.
Okay.
So.
Do you have any questions, coming for the summer? With water, everyone tries to use, and we have one here. This thing over here. Oh, no, that's not it. We had some sunscreen, but ones that are waterproof. Now, properly getting rid of that, would you just go by the time? If it's recommended you reapply it 2 hours, is that kind of when you know it's gone off you?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it depends on how much activity, how much sweating.
A lot of different factors.
Exactly. The general rule of thumb, if you're being active and you're in the water, apply every hour with the sunscreen.
Excellent.
Yeah, with the DEET products and the repellents, those are good for about 5 to 8 hours.
Okay, that's quite a while.
Yeah.
Perfect. Today's certified WIC activity code is tick check. Tick check. So Chad, I had another question actually about post hike. And it's regarding first aid. So if you were on a hike and you get, you trip, slip, or fall, whether it's on a rock or you have a cut or bruise, do you have any recommendations after the hike? While you're hiking, I know for me it's a tendency to just keep going and not worry about an injury or something like that. Is that anything you can comment on?
Well, yeah, obviously when you are on your hike, you'll want to go to your own, if you have any physical limitations, you don't want to extend past those. So I know I have I have a bad knee. So if I'm doing a lot of hiking straight up, it's really stressful on my knee. So I'll either take a lot of breaks or I'll try to find another trail that will go up that will help, relieve some of the stress on that. If you're up hiking and you do get injured, it's infinitely harder for them to get you down than it would be just carrying themselves down.
That's a good point as well,
Yeah. So if you do get injured and you get home, definitely wash it out the best you can. If it looks like it needs more extensive treatment, definitely call your primary care provider, or if you need to, go to urgent care.
Excellent. I did have another comment, not exactly about post-hiking per se, but the weather is always an interesting thing. Planning your hike is one thing and where you want to go, whether it's in Vermont or not, and then knowing and understanding the weather, correct? Like, not only time of day, but understanding your limitations with the weather.
Yep. So there's some of the trails that you may go on will become slippery if it rains, so you want to keep that in mind. And weather in Vermont changes very quickly. There's a lot of other places do too. So you could go out in the morning and it's perfectly sunny and it's 60 degrees, and 2 hours later it's 40 degrees and pouring rain, and now you were ready for 60 degree, but now you're not ready for 40 degree and rain.
Yeah.
So definitely keep in mind the possibility of hypothermia. Heat stroke's another one you really got to keep an eye on. Again, it could swing the other way. It could be 60 degrees and then by mid-afternoon it's 85 and you're somewhere and you thought it was going to be kind of cooler, so you didn't bring a lot of water. So keep an eye on that stuff. Do not recommend drinking out of streams or things like that. If you can, if you come upon someone on the trail, if you need to, ask for water.
Okay, perfect.
And I would just add as well, the time of day matters too. So dawn and dusk tend to be times of the day where you're going to see more mosquitoes.
Okay.
So if you're planning your hike, just know that the sun up, sundown times are going to be a little more interesting.
Relate to some more bugs and
exactly.
Well, thank you. Do either of you have any last comments about post hike?
I just had a couple resources.
Yeah.
If people are interested, we do have brochures about being tick smart, and actually wallet cards that have information about ticks, pictures of ticks, and on the back side what we talked about, repelling, inspection, and removal of ticks. And these can be found at our office right here in St. Albans, so feel free to give me a call.
Excellent. Perfect. Do you have any?
I just want to say that hiking is safe and fun when you prepare properly. So that's everything from making sure you're hydrated to making sure that you practice tick safety. So don't let something like ticks or being afraid of Lyme disease stop you. If you do everything right, you'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to make one last note. If you were to choose a hike, you can check out www.vtstateparks.com. It's a great website checking out all the Vermont state parks, and you can find your perfect kind of weekend hike. So thank you guys for both being on today.
Sure,
Appreciate
thanks.
it.